Hi, everyone. You're listening to the Mother Days, and I'm Teresa Palmer.
And I'm Sarah Wright Olsen. Hi, guys. Hi, Daisies.
Hey, Daisies.
Welcome to another episode of our show. It's always a little discombobulated, a little all over the place, but we are here and ready to chat it up and talk about some fun things. And the last time that we left you guys, I think I had been traveling back or was traveling back to LA, and
you were bringing down the patriarchy.
Thank you, everybody, for your amazing messages. It's so funny because when we did that episode, I was like, Teresa, I don't know if I'm going to tell this story or not. I don't know how I feel about it. And she was like, oh, you have to keep the story. Yeah, leave it in. And I'm so glad I did because
it was my favorite part of the episode.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, I'm so glad I did because so many of you guys wrote in and talked about how much that meant to you. And I was just so glad. And I was way outside my comfort zone, but really grateful that
I have a question. Have you bumped into him?
No.
Or anyone who's affiliated with, no, you haven't?
Well, I did bump into somebody that was affiliated with, and I told her the story and she was like, what? And I was like, yeah. And she goes, oh my God. She could not believe that he said that. And what's crazy is that I was so reserved in the way that I was saying it. But the thing he actually said was, do you give it to Eric the way that you gave it to Tom Cruise? That's what he said in that movie.
Oh my
instead of
God.
that guy in that movie.
What a pervert.
And I was just like, ew.
It's so perverted.
It's so gross.
Why does he want to know that information so he can go home and have it for his wank bank later in the day?
No, I think it was you know how sometimes people say things because they feel like it makes them feel cool? I almost feel like it was a joke to be funny and cool and say something that's kind of inappropriate.
Oh my God.
And to me, I was just like, wow, I'm not a prude, but I was like, that was not cool and super inappropriate, you know? I was gross.
What a really strange choice.
So you guys had some pretty awesome messages and I really appreciated it. And it's awesome. This community is amazing. Getting feedback from you guys, reading these DMs. We were just reading some of them now, right before we started, and it's just so cool to be doing this and to be able to communicate with you guys. So thank you, Teresa. What have you been up to? You've been crazy over in your
What have I been up
What's
to?
been going on? Last time we left you, your friend was about to give birth or kind of giving birth soon.
To her first baby. Yeah, so she went to 41. The baby was born 41 plus 3. Labor started 41 too. And I'm going to let her tell her story if she wants to tell her story. So I won't divulge too much. But let's just say, oh my God, it was such a pivot. I was so happy because we did get to the, my main thing was I didn't want to get to the birth center too early or too late because with Forrest, I arrived so late. I was 10 centimeters dilated when I gave birth to Forrest. And that was I just kind of miscalculated for myself. And so with this, I was like, okay, ideally she arrives at 6 to 7 and we got there and I thought she was closer to sort of 5, but I had heard that her mum and her sister had really fast births. So I was like, right, okay, better to err on the side of caution. So we rock up and the midwife's like, oh, you're 6 to 7. And I was like, yeah, party. Whoa, oh my gosh, let's go have a baby. And it didn't really unfold like that. I was like, yeah, we were
geez.
dancing to Kanye. We were like, woo, like playing all these songs like Kid Cudi. Like we're in the shower. She was laboring. And I was like, oh, she's in transition. This is happening. Like I thought it was the fastest birth. We were all like high-fiving each other. She was like, this is not bad at all. This is not what I thought. Anyway, let's just say things changed. But the wonderful thing was the baby was stable the entire way through. Perfect, happy heartbeat,
so
which was amazing the whole way through. Never a dip with the heartbeat, but just lots of interesting moments where there was like pivot after pivot after pivot. And there were times when I would just go to the toilet, cry, and then come back and be in it and just still keep being the supportive friend. And I felt for her so much. And her partner and I would just look at each other with tears in our eyes being like, what's happening? But I've never seen anything like it. Like what a warrior. She battled through it for so long. And then we ended up changing plans, which I also explained to her. She still got to have a vaginal birth, which was what we wanted, which was the outcome. Obviously, healthy baby, healthy mummy is what we wanted. And both of those things happened. And of course, there was feelings when plans had to change. And it was like that loss of expectation and the idea of how it would unfold, and suddenly things fully changed. And I explained to her too, that happened to me. I had a home birth transfer with my first baby, and of course I had ideas of how it was going to unfold, and I had to completely do a reframe at the end of my labor, realizing, I'm going to be giving birth in the hospital. And so it was just about trying to stay the path and keep positive with all the changes that came up. And I just like, it gave me such like profound, deep respect, even though it was already there, but it gave me such feelings of gratitude to birth workers, to midwives, to doulas, the people who are there and like advocating when things are getting really hard and the mindset is shifting of the birthing person. And it's incredible. Like we didn't sleep for a really long time, Nick and I, her partner. And there was a moment where I was like, I fell asleep on a mat on the floor when Susie was getting some rest. And it was just like, I just kept thinking of these midwives who do these shifts, these long shifts, and the doulas who are there from the moment someone goes into labor. Some people labor for 3-4 days. So it was such a marathon, and I'm so proud of Susie and how she handled it. And it's just like giving me a newfound respect for her. And the baby is gorgeous. Oh my God. She's beautiful.
I mean, that's
and
the
healthy.
thing, right?
Oh.
If you have this amazing, healthy outcome after like such a rigorous, experience, like you're like, okay, well, everybody's healthy.
I know.
But I mean, it's interesting because I have heard a couple of people talk about births recently where they had a like really long amount of pushing, and I just like that happened to me with my first birth, and I just feel so much. I can actually, if I really think about it, I can feel the way that my bottom felt after pushing for that long.
Babes.
Because when you have that much pressure, like pushing against everything, but like the baby's not coming out, like maybe the baby wasn't in optimal positioning. And so, the baby's like pressing against your cervix and everything. So anyway, it's just like crazy how much pressure that you feel down there after the fact. Whereas like if you have a normal pushing situation where it's like, a few minutes to like a half an hour or whatever that is, then it, to me, like, it has not felt as intense as that first time when it was like the 4 hours of pushing. So anyway, I just like feel so deeply.
Yeah. When we were in it and she was able to get some rest, and, the like edge of the contractions had been taken away. I was able to share with her about your birth and about your pushing stage. And I was like, yeah, I haven't experienced this before except for with Sarah, which was the first birth I ever saw. And I actually have a question. Do you remember in the 4 hours of pushing, were you manually pushing or were you having the full fetal ejection reflex where you couldn't help but push? Or were you having to were you trying to push?
So I was having that feeling of needing to push, but it was like a confusing feeling because in my other births, now that I've had 3, right? The feeling of needing to push and then actually bearing down, those things all felt right together. But in the first birth, the feeling of like needing to push and then pushing, like it really felt unsuccessful. Like it didn't feel like anything was happening, but I kept feeling this like urgency anytime a contraction was coming. Like it's almost like if you were going to go poop, right? It's like you feel like you have to go poop and you need to sit on the potty and then you need to like, actually bear like down. Push and go into it. Bear down. So like, but then I would go to the bear down thing and then like, I don't know. It's like, I kept being like, am I not doing this right? Like it was so confusing.
Yes.
Because I wasn't feeling successful. But the reason is because the baby was pressing against my cervix and that was swelling. And then, and then that was just, and he was just not in the optimal positioning. Right. So, but it's interesting because like that feeling of it not being successful at that stage, but still feeling like you needed to like get the baby out is such a confusing back and forth.
I think as a first time mum, if someone's asking you questions like, do you feel it in your bottom? And you're like, yes, I do.
Yes.
So then do you want to push? Sure, I'll push. Like it's such an interesting thing because I also didn't have that with Bodhi, my first birth. I was like manually pushing for such a long time. Remember at my house, they were having me push and push. So a similar thing happened in this situation. And as the acting doula, even though I'm not actually a doula, so I don't think I'm allowed to use that term, as a birth supporter.
You're a doula now.
As a birth supporter, I was also like trying to gauge, is this the right thing? Should she be bearing down for this long? Is this right? Like, does she have a cervical lip? What is going on? Like, it was just wild. And we'll, get into more details when we have Susie on to describe it all. But wow, it was wild. And right before that, a few days before that, because I was really not sleeping because I was waiting for the phone call that she's in labor. So I was waking up. I was tired for a really long time and then dealing with like the things I was talking about the other day about on the podcast, just like, big life changes and what we're going to do. And we're in the middle of the strike. And then, we had to move out of this house because we had a renter coming in, but we actually had to stay in Adelaide. So we had nowhere to move to. And there was just so much uncertainty. And I was just I was going through the ringer. And then just to top it all off, we had, the renter came over who was, she's moving into our house in a few days and we're moving out somewhere else. And she was like, hey, I'm going to bring my dogs over because she's actually keeping my dogs here at the house and they're the same kind of dog. So she's got a Labradoodle and a Groodle and I have a Labradoodle and a Groodle. So she's just keeping them here for the months that she's renting. And she was like, I'll bring them over so they can get like acquainted to each other on home turf. And I was like, great idea. And she was like, oh, just so you know, like my dogs aren't great with cats. I was like, oh, okay, I'll lock my cat up. And because I hadn't been sleeping, I just had this really shit ass day where I raced back to the house. The house was a bloody pigsty. It was because Mark likes to make the school lunches in the morning before school, but I like to make them the night before and have them in the fridge. So it's just one job I don't have to do. So we're making 4 lunches because Prairie has toddler class a few days a week as well where you get to go with her. So I was like, all right, you make them in the morning, like we'll tag team. Anyway, he happened to get out of bed a bit later that day, and we were just in a bloody rush. I was like doing the lunches, getting everyone dressed, teeth brush. Who has it? Why don't you have your shoes on? What do you mean the socks don't fit? Mum, can you go find some socks? Oh my God. Like, it was just one of those mornings, zipped out of the house, but then realized that the house was foul, that it was so messy. And I had this beautiful renter coming over to look at the house for me to go through all the different systems. And I was like, she's going to walk in and be like, I changed my mind. I don't want to be here.
I'm not renting this.
So, like, oh God, gross. So I was like racing back home to tidy up the house. I like run into the house and Prairie's fallen asleep in the car. I'm running into the house, left her in the car because it's winter here. So I was like, okay, she'll just sleep in the car. She usually sleeps for an hour. I'm like tidying up the house and I meant to tell my mum, oh, can you listen out for Prairie? And I sort of yelled it towards her, but I didn't say like, hey, mum, Prairie's in the car. She's asleep. Can you just make sure she's all good? I didn't do that. I kind of was like, Mom, she's in the car, blah, blah. Like, as I'm like tidying everything up, racing around, making the house look good. She rocks up and then I'm talking with her and blah, blah, blah. And about 30 minutes goes by and then I'm talking about my fireplace. And I was like, well, you know, we have a little one. And just so you know, this fireplace, the gate here, it's actually broken, the PEX. So don't let your little one like go near the fireplace. And I was like, little one, Prairie. Oh my God. And I like raced to the car and I opened the car and I was like, Mom, did you check on her? And she was like, I didn't know she was in the car. Anyway.
Oh my God.
Open the car. She's like doing the cry.
No.
I know. She's doing the bloody cry. And I was like, oh my God.
Oh.
So I've totally mess this up and I have Prairie and she's crying and my mum's like, I didn't hear you. And I was like, it's all good. And she would have probably, she wasn't so bad. So I think she'd probably been in there for 5 minutes crying. But then I'm all flustered. I've got the baby. I'm still just trying to play it cool and like walk through the house. I'm breastfeeding her. And then she was like, oh, is there anywhere we can store our plate? Like, we've got a bunch of stuff that we need to store because they're renovating and the roof of their house is coming off. So they actually have to store a bunch of their stuff. And I was like, oh my God, yes, come up here to the granny flat. Like, it's perfect. Like, you could store the stuff. Open the granny flat door. I was like, right in here, the cat is in there.
Oh no.
Her dogs have followed us up into the granny flat. And then I was like,
oh my gosh.
Like it was slow motion. My cat flies up in the air, like literally jumps almost to the ceiling, like,
oh my gosh.
Like a full vampire style, like full sharp claws out, like pew, like just flies at her dog's face. Her dog's barking at the cat and then out, then they're off. And by the way, my land is 10 acres of land. The cat is off, 4 dogs in hot pursuit, like running after the cat. No. The cat's like, meh. I'm hearing barking and screaming and the cat meowing. And I have Prairie in my arms and I'm racing with Prairie like, after these dogs. And she grabs her one dog by the collar. She manages to get one dog. And I'm still in hot pursuit after the other 3 dogs. And my dogs are all riled up, even though they're best friends with the cat. They're just following along with this chase. And so her dog's like chasing after the cat. And then I'm racing down through the paddock, like running through the scrub, like, ow. And Prairie's like, what the hell is going on? I'm screaming at the top of my lungs for my mum because I'm like, Mum, because I needed her to grab Prairie so I could try and like save the cat.
What is she doing?
Mum was like on the phone to someone inside the house. She didn't hear me screaming. Guillermo, Mark's brother, didn't hear me screaming. And I finally, they run back up to the house and then her dog grabs my cat in its mouth and starts doing like the death shake where it's like shake, 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 shake. So I grab her dog by the collar. I've got the baby in my arm and I just do these swift like boom, boom, these 2 big kicks to the dog and the dog like drops the cat, but the cat's bleeding and has managed to crawl himself up a tree and I'm screaming for my mum because the dog is still like really riled up. And Prairie's crying in my arms. She's already gone from one trauma to the next trauma. And I'm like, where are you, Mum? I need you. And then finally, like, the woman comes down and I was like, oh my God, your dog had my cat in its mouth. And here, let's put your dogs in the car. Like, I don't know where my cat's gone. I think it's injured. And so we put the dogs in the car. And finally my mum comes out like, do. And I was like, Mum, did you not hear what was going on? And she was like, no, I was on the phone to Uncle Peter. And I was like, Mum, I need you to take Prairie. The cat's gone. And I'm so like also trying to keep it cool and chill with her because she was like, I'm so sorry. I'm mortified. And I was like, this is my fault. This is not you. You told me your dogs aren't good with cats. Like, I totally forgot I'd put the cat there. I don't know what is wrong with me today. And so she was like, I'm going to go home. So she left.
God.
My mum has the baby. I'm out like trying to get the cat down from a tree and I can see all this slobber and blood. I'm literally like, my whole body is shaking.
At this point?
No, I was just like, I called the vet and I was like, this just happened. And he was like, what do you see? Tell me what you see. And I was like, I can see it at the top of the tree. It's so high up. I don't know how to get it down. And I can see blood coming out of its mouth. And he's like, the vet literally says to me, this sounds fatal. I was like, oh God.
Stop.
Oh God. And so then I'm yelling out to Guillermo, like my sweet brother-in-law who's like the biggest nerd. Like, but he's like a cool nerd, but he's afraid of like, he's not really into cats and dogs. He's not like a big animal person. And I was like, gee, can you help me? Like, can you please just help me? I don't know how you can help, but just somehow I've got to get this cat down. Like, can you just like hold my feet while I climb the tree? And I'm climbing the tree and all these branches are snapping and I'm trying to get the cat and it's like going, like making the weirdest noises. It's so stressed out.
Oh my gosh.
And like, you should see me. I had this beanie on. I had a big scarf around my neck so I like didn't get too scratched. I had these garden gloves on. I'm climbing the fucking tree. And then Guillermo's like, let me have a go. And that's like, you know, he's the sweetest, nerdiest. He's so beautiful. But I was like, are you for real? Like, no, you're not going to go out there. And it's like my beautiful autistic brother-in-law who I would never send up a tree. But then he was like, no, I want to do this. And I was like, are you sure? He takes the beanie off, puts the gloves on, he's never climbed a tree in his life. He's like, this is the first time I've ever climbed a tree. I was like, I don't think this is a great idea. Cut to like 25 minutes later, I'm like telling him which branches to go on. He gets that cat down from the tree and like we had to sort of literally climbed up the top. He did it. It was like the most amazing thing to witness. I was like, you've been like born into this like man of the wild somehow from like sweet Guillermo to like this dude who's climbing at the top of the tree, being the hero of the day, pulls the cat down. And there was this one moment where the cat was dangling from the top of the tree by its paws and its whole body was just dangling. Like it would have died. And I was like, Guillermo, grab anything you can get, a leg, a paw, the scrub, its head, like its tail, anything so it doesn't drop from this height, anything. And it's literally like out of a movie. It's like its claws and it was crying so loudly. And he grabs this paw as it drops and like manages to climb down holding onto the cat's paw and sort of flings the cat from halfway down and the cat like lands at my feet and he's okay. I put it in the cat carrier, zip it off to the vet and I was like, Guillermo, way to just come through and just save the day, be the unlikely hero. Like I've got to post the footage. It was amazing, Sarah. I was like, what is going on? And then, you know, thousands of dollars later, the cat's actually fine. They thought it had like a puncture in its lung and all this stuff. It was the kids were crying, like so many things.
You walk into a vet and your animal's injured at all and they're like, yeah, it looks like it's got a punctured lung. We're going to have to do some scans. You're like, really scans?
I know.
Yeah.
Scans?
Let me put $3,000 on your credit card and just don't worry. It's just to hold it just in case. And then it's like, now we got to do blood work. Well, how much does blood work cost? Oh, $800. What?
Yes.
It's the worst.
It was seriously like that. And then if you don't pay it that day, they hold your animal hostage. Because I was like, like, wait, I need to transfer some money I wasn't expecting this. So I've just got to.
Yeah, no.
And they were like, we'll keep the cat until 7 p.m. and then you'll have to pay for another night. So you got to get the money to us by 7. I was like, okay, wait, just scrambling. Hang on, let me move it from this to this. All right,
I need a brown bag.
I seriously was like, this is the most insane thing that ever happened. Anyway,
that day needed to be over.
It was over, and then the birth was the next day.
Stop! Are you serious?
Most insane few days that I was like, what is happening to me?
What?
Why is this my life right now?
Moon?
I do not know, but I will say all this weird shit cracked open afterwards. I said crapped open. It kind of was like
open.
We got crapped on and then we cracked open.
Yes.
But then all this awesome shit started coming, like these opportunities and things. And I was like, okay, I obviously just had to be dragged through the absolute fucking shit hell in order for the light to come in. So there you go. Anyway.
Why is it like that though? Because I do feel like that is the case a lot of times, that we sort of have to find our way through this struggle and then, I read something the other day about how, you never hit your head on, your shirt never catches on the doorknob, except for when you're having a really bad day. It's so true.
It's so true.
When you're running through the house to grab something, and it's never is it on a great day that your shirt catches on the doorknob and rips you backwards. It's
that is so
only
true.
The days when everything's falling. And the other day, I was literally, Eric opened the dishwasher on my shin. I hit my head on a cabinet within a matter of minutes.
What?
Yes. So many weird things. I got hit in the shin or in the ankle by a rock when I was just walking down, because I was like, I want to get in the ocean, and this giant rock hits me in the ankle. And then we got back up here, and it was accidentally Eric opened the dishwasher on my shin, and then I walked into the laundry room to grab something, and I reached over to do it, and I turned back to say something to Eric, and I whacked my head on a cabinet above us, and I was just okay, the day needs to be over. We just need this day to be over.
You're at least that's the third one. I know I'm good for a while. Do you know, I always explained it away by okay, so I'm a big believer in energy and low vibrational headspace and high vibes. I do notice that there is such a pattern when I am in a low vibrational headspace and I'm feeling sorry for myself and things are really hard and I'm like, this sucks, or I'm complaining, more crappy stuff happens. And I swear to God, well, this is just my interpretation of it. It's because I'm putting out low vibes around this sucks. I hate it. Those things are coming my way. It's more bad news is coming my way. And then I then get to a point where I laugh about how it couldn't be any worse. And then once I laugh about it, it's almost I release the energy surrounding it and the hold it has on me. And I just reframe. I'm like, oh, well, if I can get through this, woo, I can get through anything. And then the pivot brings in the higher vibe feelings. And all of a sudden I'm oh my God, we just booked an amazing renter for 3 weeks. Woo. Oh, okay. I just got this ambassador opportunity. Oh my gosh, this cool email just landed. So it's funny. It's taking, for me, it's when I just jump into the headspace of right, could things feel really crap right now? I'm just going to kind of laugh about it, move through it the best way I can, but just have a smile on my face and be grateful for the funny side of these things. And then it just it changes. I feel it shift.
Yeah. No, I totally hear that. And I love it. I love hearing about that too. Cause do you notice that? Okay. So you know how they talk about how at the beginning of the year, we have our resolutions or what are we going to do this year? We're writing out our gratitude list and all of these things and expectations. And then we get into this rhythm of okay, whatever it is, it's now I'm doing my movement every day or my exercises or, I'm eating a certain way or I'm trying this thing or I'm going to do my gratitude. And then you get into the rhythm of life and work and school and like whatever it is. And then do you ever like wake up one day and go, wait, was the last time I did my gratitude list? Like, I've been in such a rhythm where I was like, wait, I haven't done any of my high vibration stuff for like over a month and a half. I don't even remember how I did that every day. Like, you know, it's so funny how easily you can slip out of and into a different pattern, and a pattern that's sort of like taking you down a wrong road, you know? And then you go like, oh, right. Okay, wait, I want to get back to that feeling and that energy and that thing that I was doing every day. Like, I got to find my way back to that. I just got to do it, you know, like, then go there. Cause I've done that where I'm like, oh, I haven't been doing my, like sitting there, like in the morning doing my list. Cause you know, somebody DM'd us about this and said like, how do you do this every day? And like, what's your routine? Like, give me your routine. And so my routine shifts a little bit, but I was talking about the sort of movement routine recently where like that has been my consistency. But in that I kind of like lost some of my, okay, I need to like do my gratitude list. So my dream routine would be get up in the morning, do coffee, do a workout, you know, try to do sauna or do like cold shower or like whatever that is, and then do my gratitude list. And all of this would happen before 7 a.m. or 7:30 so that I could be like ready for my day and taking the kids to school and all of that. But I've gotten all of that stuff for me done before my day starts. And so I just think like getting into that kind of a routine is so healthy for me. That's what, you know, once I'm doing it, I'm like, whoa, I'm so high. Like my vibration is so high. But I'll like forget to do certain things. And then I just, it's like, you know, a month later I go, oh, wait, what happened to that thing that I was wanting to do? Yeah.
It's so funny that you say that because I had this weird thing the other day. Mark and I got invited. Oh my God, it was unbelievable. Sarah, it was so unbelievable. So I just got back from the World Cup, right?
Yes.
And the Australian team, the Matildas, were playing France. And it was going to be our biggest, hardest match. And this is like to get us to go to the grand final. I know it's not called the grand final. All the people out there, the final, I don't know. I'm new to soccer, guys. So there you go. Anyway, so we got invited by Tourism Australia. And I love those guys. And we were really excited to go. And we're like, oh my God, let's go. And we were at the airport in the morning and we were leaving the older three kids with my mum and Guillermo, my brother-in-law. So just for one night, and we took Prairie with us and we were getting a babysitter. So we were like, okay, let's get everyone sorted. And of course, I wasn't organized enough the night before to have everyone's outfits laid out and blah, blah, blah. So the morning felt really rushed and we got to the airport and I didn't have any makeup on. I was like, oh, I hadn't showered, nothing. And I bumped into this person that I knew and she was always like so beautiful at school, really kind girl, like a few years below me at school. And I bumped into her and she's just like stunningly beautiful. She's got her 3 children. Her hair's all blow dried. Like she just looked so gorgeous and put together and stuff. And I was like talking to her. And then afterwards I said to Mark, I was like, oh, and then I got recognized. That was the other thing. I got recognized at the airport by someone who came up. Who's like, I love Discovery of Witches, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like suddenly really self-conscious. And I said to Mark, like, you know, I'm like, I stink. I didn't have a bloody shower. I'm all frazzled. I've got no makeup on. I haven't even had time to put my eyebrows on, which I never like going out without my eyebrows on. And I was like, I just feel so gross. And I'm sure this woman, and it was just a self-critical thing. And I was like, this woman like loves me in A Discovery of Witches. I'm sure she was like, whoa, she looks rough in real life. Like I just had this horrible inner self voice. And then I was thinking about this girl that I bumped into and she was like, probably in my head, I was like, she's probably like, oh God, she looks a little worse for wear. And I said to Mark, you know what? Like I don't take care of myself. I take care of everyone else and I don't take care of myself. And he does. He really does. Like he will.
No, I know he does.
You know what he's like. Like he has his like
Yes.
routines and his showers
Face
and his things.
creams.
And you know, meanwhile, I'm running around like a banshee, like, wah, like trying to get everyone to school on time.
He like gets
and he
his
also doesn't
workout
care.
in.
He gets his workout. He doesn't care if the kids are late for school. I like fundamentally care. It is such a big problem for me if they're not there to have 15 minutes before school, because I know that they like having that transition time before school. And so I will literally be half dressed, racing out the door, not caring what I'm going to look like in the school playground. But now I'm realizing like, oh God, it would be so nice. It would just be so nice to like have a moment to lock the bathroom door and knowing that everyone's getting dressed and, you know, breakfast is on and we're going to get out the door. Just to have 5 minutes to even just put a bit of makeup on or put my eyebrows on, brush my hair even, you know, like put some deodorant on. And then, so last night, Mark was like, well, you just have to carve the time out. You actually just have to do it. And I was like, okay. So last night I said he was like, I'll make their lunches in the morning. And I was like, no, because I'm going to carve out some time for myself in the morning. And I know you making lunches in the morning is me dragging you out of bed like faster to like start doing the lunches. So I was like, I'm going to have this already by the front door. So last night I had even the littlest things that take time, like filling up the water bottles. So I had 4 water bottles lined up by the front door next to the bags. I had all their school clothes lined out. I had the things that like they'll be like, where's my whatever it is. I had it all in the bag, all ready to go by the front door. And I was like, okay, this feels amazing. So all I need to do is wake up and do breakfast and have them brush their teeth and make sure that they're dressed. And I'm going to have some time. So I actually had 10 minutes this morning. 10 freaking minutes, which is unheard of for me. And I went into the bathroom and I put some mascara on. Look, that's why I'm wearing makeup right now. I have like gorgeous. A cute top that I pulled out. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be winning in the school playground. I'm going to rock up. People can be like, wait, what? Is that her? That doesn't look like Teresa. Anyway, so rock up. We got there so early. I got to school at 8:20. So the kids, not only did they have the 15 minutes, they had an extra 10 minutes on top of that. I could go and find school jumpers that the kids had lost. I found a rogue water bottle in the playground that was ours. Like it was so good. So just committing, like what you said, just committing like to yourself, being like, I'm showing up for myself in this way. It has made the day run so much better by just being a little bit more organized and allowing myself to have some self-care time.
Yeah, it's so awesome. And that I was just going to say, what did that do for you mentally, just to like be able to actually go, okay, this is what I need for me, whatever it is, by the way, because like for me, like most of the time when I go to school, like I feel when I take the kids to school or whatever, I feel really put together, even though my hair is wet and I don't have makeup on, but I've like worked out, done breakfast, like, you know, all the things, and then showered, put my clothes on that I want to put on. And I feel like so refreshed and good. And I'm like taking them to school before I start my day. So to me, that feels like that's the level of put together that I feel, but it makes me feel so good. So like, what did that do for you? Did it make you feel more organized? Did you like feel like, okay, I can like grab my day now and like go for it?
Awesome. I felt happy instead of the rush, because there's always a rush in the morning. Like it's because we live quite far from the school. It's 40 minutes to get to drive, actually longer, 45 minutes in the car to go down the hill. And then oftentimes I have to drive back up the hill 30 minutes to then drop Poet, which is what I had to do this morning before we recorded this podcast. And I felt so great. I was in such a good mood. We hopped in the car. I played all this music. We were all jiving and hanging out and having so much fun. And it just felt good to be able to go, and I could check in with all the teachers, and it was just so nice. And I've been banging on to Bodhi for so long to find his school jumper, which you'd call a sweater. And he has just left it. He's just left it somewhere at school.
Yes.
And he came home he literally came home. He picked any old jumper from Lost Property and he wrote his name on it, like Bodie Palmer. He was like, yeah, I found it. And I was like, excuse me? That is not yours. That is a size 14. I've never bought you a size 14 jumper.
You're
and I was like,
no,
that is
good,
so
nice
cheeky.
One.
Like, good one. He was like,
not cool.
it's been sitting at the bottom of Lost Property for months, Mum.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I've been thinking about taking this one. I was like, I don't want some random person's jumper. Like, you need to find yours. That's your responsibility.
Yes.
So I made him go back today and tell the school that he had taken it out of Lost Property and wrote his name on it. And I was like, you're going to go to the front office and they all laughed about it. But I was like, I want you to own up to this and be like, I took this out of Lost Property. This was not mine. This is someone else's. So like I had to cross his name out and like put it back in Lost Property. And I was like, and you'll find yours. At some point you'll find yours. But today I was very excited to find a water bottle that I got at the Ash Barty Open, the Australian Open, where she won. It was this like water bottle with my name, Palmer, on it. And I'd given it to Forrest and I was like, do not lose this. This is meaningful to me. And then of course, like he lost it and I had the time to find it today at school and it made me so happy. Oh,
that's so awesome. I just feel so good. Like I feel like, okay, I can go accomplish so much because I've like started my day this way. And I think especially if you're on the same page with your partner and you're like, you know, we're getting up at 5:30 or 6 or like whatever it is that I don't know what time, you know, everybody has to like be at work in the morning or drop kids off at school. But for me, if I'm getting up at 5:30 or 6, then I can get everything accomplished before 7. And then we usually leave at like 7:30, 7:45, which is so nice.
So do you every morning, you try and get up that early?
Yeah, I go to bed early too, though. I'm in bed by 7:30, 8 o'clock. So
when are you asleep?
And we asleep 8, probably like more like 9. Like I don't fall asleep until 9.
You're a butterfly. What? Like what even? How? I just don't understand. How do you do
there's
this?
Sometimes when I might wake up at 10. Might go to bed at 10, but I'm not up. I'm like in bed resting and dozing. Like sometimes I'll be on my phone, sometimes I'll read. It just depends. I shouldn't be on my phone, but sometimes I'm like communicating with my Australian friends at that time of night.
Yeah, like
us. But to go to bed at that time, then I'm able to just automatically wake up early at like 5:30 something, 6 as the sun is coming up because I don't have curtains in our room. And so it's great. And it's so nice. I'll just like pop straight. I used to be the person that couldn't handle the mornings. Like I just hated them all through school. And now I'm like, it's morning. I get to go make coffee. I'm going to brush my teeth. I brush my teeth straight away. And then I go make coffee. The only reason why I'm actually talking through some of this stuff, you guys, is because people have been DMing and asking, like, how do you fit this stuff in? Like, when do you do it? Because it's someone was asking us like about the routine and just fitting in the like idea of doing a gratitude list, but it doesn't have to be overcomplicated. That's the thing. It's like, if I do a 20-minute workout on my app or 30-minute workout, and then, you know, sit there afterwards, or like I'm in the shower and I just run through like a gratitude list, or just like, these are the things that I'm excited about. And this is what I'm grateful for. And like, wow, my family's healthy and I'm healthy and like whatever it is. Then it's like, I come out of the shower, I do my face oils, throw on a dress, and I'm like, boom, ready to start the day. And so
heaven, that's so great. Heaven. This morning I woke up, my body just woke me up before prairie. Usually it's the other way around, at 6:45. And so that feels, I like between 6:30 and 6:45 for me feels like a good wake up where things aren't so intense at the house in the morning where it's like, out the door.
That's right.
Last night I was so exhausted early that I fell asleep at 10. And usually Mark comes in the room at 11 and I'm always just waiting for him to get into bed. And so last night we were both really tired. So we fell asleep at 10, and right before, because I've been feeling And I think it could just be as easy as shifting these nighttime hours a little bit earlier and waking up earlier.
Mhm.
The rush and the busyness has been feeling a lot. And we don't have a cleaner at the moment at the house. So I'm cleaning. I'm trying to keep everything clean.
Yeah.
We have 8 people living in the house. And there's just this never-ending to-do list that I've just been like, I can't accomplish it all. There's just not enough hours in the day.
Not enough hours in a day.
Adjusting the time you go to bed and the time you wake up really makes an impact. I also, on just that other random note last night, like you were saying, when you get into your routine and you're sort of missing the things that serve you, I have remember when like a couple of episodes ago I was talking about how like, oh, my manifesting hasn't been great. And the whole reason why I think this has been happening is because it's so busy. And I think having the 4th child now have a little bit more independence, it also means there are more things for her to do. Like she loves her toddler class, she loves her ballet. So now I'm really feeling the like, oh, I've got 4 kids with all different activities and extracurricular things going on. And I've got these 2 different schools and the toddler classes here. And so I feel really spread thin. And obviously, you know, we don't have a nanny, so it's Mark and I, but Mark's been working full time. So this is what I've been feeling is like full-time work. And my mum has been wonderful at the house. She does our washing. That's like the thing she loves to do is our laundry. So that's great. But even the other day, she was like, it's getting overwhelming. I was like, okay, I'll be doing it as well. Like, don't worry.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's been so much that I haven't been dedicating myself to my usual practice of taking stock of all the things I'm grateful for and getting into bed and like doing our tarot cards together. Mark and I like so into this stuff. And like connecting. I haven't been finding the time to do that. And so last night, because I always go on my phone at nighttime because it's the only time that I get to actually like really just switch off and just go on to my phone. Last night, I told you I've been going on Reddit, right? So all the different threads on Reddit. So I found this thread last night. I belong to the Law of Attraction thread, but then I found this other one called the Awakened thread on Reddit. And I was like, oh, awakened. And so I started like looking through it and it was all about this like,
oh my gosh,
this perspective of like, you know, the infinite, we are but an infinite like drop in the ocean. Like we're all like energy and whatever. And I was like, oh my God, I'm reading it already feeling so much better. And Mark was in the room and I was like, I am just part of the cosmos. Like I just am a cosmic being, one with the stars. And he was like, it's true. And I was like, how can you live in this esoteric place and like feel all these things, but then also ground it back down to just like the responsibilities of your actual life and doing all the things and paying the bills. And how can I keep the higher consciousness tapped in whilst also like being a being of the world where we actually are part of society and we have responsibilities. And
I think
Mark
it's hard.
said to me, you just do. And that was his like parting words of wisdom as I fell asleep. But it actually made me appreciate. I was like, I love the fact that I have a husband that I can be like, I am but one with the cosmos. Like I am an infinite
like,
part of a drop of the universe. And he was just like, yes, you are. And I love it because I have so many other friends whose partners would be like, okay, like get off the grass. But
yeah, what'd you smoke?
He was like, yes, you are. And this morning he woke up and he was like, I really loved that you said that last night. And I was like, oh, thank you for like showing up for me in my like consciousness state before bed. I
love that so much. It's so good. I love that so much. And it's true. Like, I think it's hard to sort of blend those two. And maybe the more we practice, the better that's going to get. But I will say that since we sort of like folded our conversation today into this, I think it's because we both need it. And it's like important for us to discuss it because carving out that time in the morning, in the evening, whatever it is that you need or like you can fit in. For all of you that are listening, maybe some of you, this will resonate and just, you know, try taking that that moment, like that piece of time, that 20 minutes, 30 minutes, like whatever it is, where you get up a little bit earlier, and maybe that's hard to do, but like just try it out and see if that helps you to get to that higher vibration, because you're taking care of yourself before you're like, taking care of everybody else. And they say when you put the mask on yourself first, you're able to take care of, put the mask on your little ones,
so
right?
true.
It's like the same thing. And this week, by the way, was Esme's birthday.
Yes.
And I did
what a magic little unicorn she is.
Oh my gosh, she is. And for anybody who didn't see my post, I was like, having this, your conversation made me think of this. So I'm just going to like end our conversation today in this way. But Esme and I were talking before bed. And I said to her, like, I'm so glad that you chose me to be your mom. Like, I love you so much. And being your mom is just such an amazing thing. And she said, and I wrote this on Instagram. So if you guys saw it, but if not, she said to me like, oh yeah, I remember standing in line, and she was like, there were so many people, but I waited in line for you. And she was like, Wyatt had to go first, but then I got to be with you. And I was like, what? I mean,
do you know why that bugged me out? I read that and I was like, Esme, because I think there is like something about her and Forrest anyway. There's just like, there's just something. There's both of those two. But the fact that she said that makes me feel like, they say children are so aware and that they're so open. They still remember like what life was like before, right? That the fact that she said that was I actually told Mark this morning, because Bodhi said something so similar a few years ago to us as well, that there was like a big crowd of children, and he put his hand up because he's like, they're the ones I want them. And he got to like move through this crowd to the front and put his hand up and was like, that's the mum for me. That's the dad for me. And he got to come and he told me he jumped through this black hole and it went and he could see all the galaxy and he came in and then he was in my womb. And so when Esme said that, I was like, wait, are they all just experiencing this? Is this what it's like in the before? Is this what
it is?
I know.
It's so funny.
Me chills.
I wonder, it makes me want to like talk to the people that created that movie Soul. I don't know if you saw Soul, but Soul is this like amazing Pixar movie. But the way that Esme has always talked to me about like, her time before, and the way that you just described that with Bodhi, it's this same as this way that the movie is, like where they're sort of like jumping into this like black hole abyss and they're going through the galaxies and then they end up, on Earth. And I mean, Esme literally said, I saw you and I saw your hair and your beautiful hair. And she's like, and I just knew you were the mom for me. Like I knew you were my mom. And she's like, and I saw dad, and she's like, and I just was like, that's it, like that. And so I waited for you. And that's what she said. She's like, I waited for you.
Because Wyatt went first.
I know. And I was like, I was like, oh, that's so sweet that she just came up with this. But then I was like, but weirdly, it makes me think of like
the movie.
All the things she used to say to me when she was like 2 and 3 years old, and it was just felt like such a natural thing to say. I don't know. So cool.
But it's weird. So Soul came out in 2020 because I was like, maybe Bodhi got it from that. But Bodhi said it when he was like really little. Like 5 or something. Because I was like, so you're right. Maybe we need to go to Soul.
Him saying that.
Yeah. I'm like, maybe we need to go to the producers of Soul and be like, did you gather these stories
where
as well?
Did you get?
Where are the stories?
Did your kids tell you this?
Oh my gosh, now I want to look it up.
Okay, for anybody who's listening, if your kids have told you, because actually somebody DM'd me afterwards and told me some story about their kid saying something similar like that to them when they were really little. And I know they say that like veil is so thin with children and they remember things and there's so many cool things that they can kind of like Esme will tell me like, you know, oh yeah, about things about my dad. She's like, did I know your dad? Because I feel like I did know your dad. And I'm like, she was in my belly when my dad was dying. So of course, like she never met him, but I'm like,
souls
it's
crossed.
always so funny that she's like, I feel like I knew your dad, you know? And so I don't know. If you guys are listening and you have any cool stories like this, please share them with us, DM us.
Let's do a whole podcast episode on it.
Episode. Yeah. Okay. Let's do that.
This is like back to the ghost stories thing that we did.
I know.
But now it's
but
past
I do
lives.
think we should. It is past lives. And I do think maybe we have a conversation with, maybe we bring somebody on that I really want to bring on Laura Lynn Jackson. Call it in, you guys. Daisies, call it in with us. Like we've definitely got a yes. And so we want to like figure out booking a time with her. Yeah. Cause I really want to ask her about this exact thing, which I think is just so fascinating.
It gave me goosebumps. Okay. Yay. What an episode. I love it.
What an episode. All right. We love you, Daisies. Thank you for joining us. And we have some pretty amazing things coming up. We've been waiting to release. We're really excited. So you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you so much. We love you.
Thanks, guys. Bye.